Hey everyone, this is Kevin Rooney and I'm with the KoreanCarBlog.com, and today I'm reviewing the 2021 Kia Seltos S all-wheel drive turbo. And this car is a lot of fun. It's a great practical value, and I think it's a great entry into the subcompact crossover segment. So let's take a look. As you can see from the exterior styling of the 2021 Kia Seltos, it's a little bit upright and boxy, which is a little bit different than some of the other cars in the Kia lineup. And I think it's something that's going to bring buyers in at this lower price point versus some of the more boxy Kia crossovers like the Telluride. So let's talk a little bit about the exterior styling. The first thing I want to talk about is the front here. One thing I really like is how they've integrated the headlights into the grille. It's kind of smooth, especially because you have things like this textured grille, which integrates all the way into the headlights and kind of fades away as you get closer to the edge here. The other thing they've done is they've actually segmented the headlights into like an upper section and a lower section. And in this trim level, the top section is where you get your turn signal, and your daytime running light is this pattern here. This daytime running light actually extends all the way into the grille to right here. And then in this model, you also get your standard beam and high beam headlights in this lower section here. If you do opt for the SX Turbo, that's going to change this slightly so that you get your full headlights at the top, and then you get LED turn signals at the bottom. So it's just a little bit different depending on the trim that you pick. Another thing that you'll notice is that this model has fog lights. There are these small round fog lights here at the bottom, and they look really nice and they work really well. Now, this car does not have LED headlights or fog lights, but it does have LED daytime running lights that kind of set it apart from the lower trim LX model. I also like how they've kind of given us a little bit of bright work at the bottom in terms of the lower grille, and that looks kind of like a skid plate, but it's not, because although this is an all-wheel drive crossover, it doesn't have the capability that you might expect from some of the more rugged competitors in this market. Now, as we move on to the side, you'll notice that this car, like many other crossovers, has this black plastic cladding near the bottom. It goes all the way to the back and kind of around this wheel as well. That's something that a lot of crossovers do, and you can take it or leave it, but I think if you're going to get this car, that's what it comes with, so just expect that. The other thing you'll notice is that this car has some bright work, some chrome trim here along the bottom of the window, but notice that it doesn't go around the top of the window line here. But what it does do is it actually gives a nice element of the styling to these silver roof rails up here. And one thing you'll notice about these roof rails is that they're kind of like floating here at the back. And if you trace this line downwards, you come right back down to this silver piece. Another thing you'll notice about the chrome on this vehicle is it's like a satin chrome. It's not such a high gloss bright chrome. So I think they did a great job in making that decision. And then let's come down to these wheels. So these are an 18-inch two-tone painted wheel with that red center cap that you see on other turbocharged Kia models such as the Forte GT. I think this application of that style actually looks really good, and it works much better than it does on some other Kia models. And then finally, let's move around to the back. So the back of the car here is fairly simple. It does have LED brake lights, but it does have standard turn signals, and these are red turn signals right here, and standard bulbs for the reversing lights as well, which are built into this chrome trim right up here. And then as we move downwards, they put some reflectors right here, and they've put some crease right here so that it looks a little bit more rugged looking. And then when you go down to this lower bumper, what you'll find is that, this looks like it's the exhaust, but it's actually just trim. This doesn't go through anywhere. You have the silver trim all the way around, and then you have this rear skid plate in silver as well. And then in terms of badging, you have this simple Seltos badge here. And since this is the S turbo all-wheel drive, you do get this S badge with the turbo gas direct inject. Also in this car, you get a rear wiper. You get a shark fin antenna on the roof. There's no sunroof on this model, but there is a small spoiler up here, and that's where the integrated third brake light is. And then as we open this trunk, you can see that this car actually has a decent amount of cargo space as well. Now, even with this high this high load floor here, it does work pretty well. And then underneath here, you do get your spare tire. And then of course you can put down these seats to give yourself even more cargo space on both sides. Now let's move on to the inside. Now when we talk about the inside of the Seltos, there are some styling decisions they've made in here that I think are really good as well. So one thing I've noticed is that on the door panels you get these speaker grills, which are kind of like a rocky kind of texture. It looks really nice, and it's kind of reminiscent of the Hyundai Santa Fe, which also has that. Now you also get that in these upper speakers right here. And I kind of like how they have multicolored trim here. So they have like a satin chrome door handle as well as like a gloss black right here. The material qualities are okay, you know, where you would expect it to be soft touch it is, but like up here this is actually hard plastic. Not bad for the segment, but you know, definitely a compromise over some of those more luxurious higher end crossovers you might see. Another thing about the interior here, it's a little bit basic in terms of the feature set. So for example, when you look at these air vents here, there's actually no way to open and close them with a switch here. You have to just open and close them with the slider right here. Same thing even with the middle vents. Those also don't have a way to open and close them automatically. So while the styling I'd say is definitely above average here, the feature set is a little bit less than I expected at this price point. I think what they did here is they put a lot of money into the upgraded engine, transmission, and some of those exterior detailing, and they didn't necessarily include some of those features that the SX Turbo or even the EX model has on this car. That being said, there is plenty of room on the interior. The headroom is actually really good. Excellent headroom, as you could expect from something that is a little bit higher. So let me open this back seat as well. So as you can see, the legroom there is definitely acceptable. I'm 6 feet tall and I've been sitting in the back of this car with no problems. And then as you can see, lots of headroom. Again, no sunroof, but I think that's a sacrifice you make at the S Turbo all-wheel drive level. If you decide to get the EX, which is around the same price as this car, you definitely get more of those luxurious amenities on the interior as well as features, but you don't get that turbocharged engine or that dual clutch automatic transmission. If you go for the SX Turbo, you get both, best of both worlds. You get the better engine as well as the luxury features. Another thing to talk about here is the fuel economy, because that's one reason why you would get a subcompact crossover rather than a larger crossover like the Sportage. This car gets 25 miles per gallon in the city and 30 miles per gallon on the highway with a combined score of 27 miles per gallon. So it's fairly fuel efficient, and it also has a pretty big fuel tank. Generally speaking, you can get up to 400 miles on a tank, which is very good for the class. This car doesn't come with smart cruise control, but it does have a standard cruise control system here. And it does come with the lane keep assist. There's a button on the steering wheel for that. And that will actually actively keep you in your lane. I've found that it works really well, and I think the reason why is because the sensors are up in this unit at the very top of the car, which gives it a really good view of the road, and it gives you a good understanding of like where your lanes are, which also helps with things like the blind spot monitoring that comes on this car. So although it doesn't have the most advanced safety features you find in some Kia models, it does have enough to keep you safe on the road. Also, let me talk a little bit about the seats here. In the Kia Seltos S Turbo all-wheel drive, what you find is a leatherette and cloth combination seat. It's a heated seat as well, so there's a 3-stage heating seats in this car, but you won't find a full leatherette seat unless you go for the EX or the SX Turbo, and in those models you will get the heated and cooling seats. This car does not have a trim level offered in the United States market, which includes full leather, or some of the more luxurious features such as the heads-up display you may find in other markets where the Seltos is sold. And also you'll need to go for the EX or the SX Turbo if you want a sunroof of any kind. As you can see, this car does not have a sunroof. 2021 Kia Seltos. This is the newest crossover in the Kia lineup. It comes right between the Kia Soul at the bottom end of the lineup and the slightly larger Kia Sportage. And the thing that sets this car apart in Kia's lineup is that it's more of an upright, boxy styling, more like an SUV rather than a crossover. And it also comes standard with all-wheel drive. That's in every trim level except for the base model S trim. And that one is a front-wheel drive, but you can also get that one in an all-wheel drive option for another $1,500. So the car I'm driving today is actually an S Turbo all-wheel drive, and the main reason that this differentiates from the basic S model of the Seltos is that this has the 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, which makes in this car 175 horsepower and 195 foot-pounds of torque. So although the power is a little bit on the low side, it makes up for it in the torque. And this car is actually pretty fun and sporty to drive. I was a little bit surprised when I got behind the wheel that it was definitely peppy. You get enough power for what you're looking for in a car like this, and the handling is actually pretty good for an upright kind of crossover. It doesn't have too much body roll, and it gives you a very commanding view because it's so tall. And that's another thing that differentiates it from the Kia Soul, because the Soul, while it's basically the same platform as this car, the Soul is very much lower. This car has 7.3 inches of ground clearance, and so it's actually a little bit more capable if you were to take it off the road. Now, I'm not going to say that you can go off-roading in this car, but you can definitely deal with inclement weather and going on dirt tracks and those type of things with that all-wheel drive. Another thing that this car comes with is the 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, which is definitely an upgrade over that intelligent variable transmission, which is basically a CVT that's offered in the base model of this car. And for a car like this, the S Turbo all-wheel drive, you're looking at an MSRP of $26,700 plus destination. Now let me talk a little bit about the interior of this car, because one thing that this S trim does do is it actually gives you a pretty basic level of features. It's not the top trim of the car. If you want all of those luxury features, you're going to have to trade up for the SX Turbo, which is the top of the line version of this car, for a couple $1,000s more. So when we look at the interior of this car, it does definitely have some compromises. So for example, you have only a single zone manual climate control system here. Basically it has the fan speed, temperature, position of the air, but it's completely manual, unlike the SX Turbo, which comes with the dual zone automatic climate control. Another thing you'll notice is if we move up here to the infotainment system, this car is fairly basic here, although it does give you a nice 8-inch screen which has a very good resolution. It does not have Sirius XM, so you're gonna just be having that AM FM. It does have HD radio, but no Sirius XM. It also does not come with in-car navigation, but what it does offer you is the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. When you plug that in, what that's going to allow you to do is stream from your phone, Waze, Google Maps, or however else you'd like to use your phone. Also, this car does have a phone tray, somewhere to keep your phone. However, it does not have the wireless phone charging. That is something that's reserved for the EX model and the SX Turbo. Also, talking about the style of the interior is a very rugged style. So in the S model specifically, you do get some blue accents. Not sure why they chose blue, but it does look pretty nice. So for example, you get this textured piece across here. This is all kind of a dark blue color, and it makes it look just a little bit premium. That blue color actually extends to the stitching on the transmission selector, as well as some various other blue stitching that you'll find in this interior. So that's the Kia Seltos. If you're looking for a subcompact crossover that's stylish, affordable, practical, and sporty, then this might be the perfect crossover for you. And at around $27,000, that turbocharged engine and that all-wheel drive are really class competitive. If you want a few more luxury features, you can opt for the SX Turbo, which comes in at around $30,000. Overall, this is a great buy, and I can thoroughly recommend this to people who are looking for a subcompact crossover that looks the part. For thekoreancarblog.com, my name is Kevin Rooney. Thanks for joining me today.